It's funny. I was talking to Rich Gaspari recently, and Rich is. I thought that he was the first bodybuilder who opened his own supplement line, but he corrected me. He said that you were the first one that opened Labrada Nutrition.
I think we opened about the same time. Yeah.
Was it difficult for you to transition from being competitive, professional bodybuilder into a CEO of a company and really building a company from the ground up?
Yes, yes. It's funny that you asked, but yes, it's very challenging. Because just because you're a great bodybuilder doesn't mean that you're going to be a great business person. And so I really had to learn, essentially in the school of hard knocks. I feel that I've always had a good sense of um, of what works. I've had a good sense, a business sense, and that type of thing. But I probably have made every mistake in the book, when it comes to running a business. So I learned. And but the one thing again that has always been for us the most important thing is the customer. And by putting the customer first, that I've always used that as our compass. But yeah, the transition was difficult. It took several years to get the company off the ground, and and get it, obviously, to build it to what it is today. It's just been a labor of love over the last 20 years.
I see. So, what are the predictions for this year's Olympia?
There's so many great athletes that are coming up. So we got Cedric on his way up. We've got that new Australian fellow who was a sensation at the Arnold, and of course we've got the perennial champion Phil Heath. So he's always tough to beat if he's in condition. So I think it'll be real interesting to see how it shakes out this year with those guys. But if I had to. If I had to, my money's still on Phil Heath. This is a man that knows what he's doing, but if my brain was in that body, I would focus not so much on putting in on any exercise, but just getting as superhumanly shredded as possible. Because I think he already has more than enough muscle, and if he can just keep building quality, he's going to be hard to beat.
Kevin Levrone recently announced that he's coming back to the Olympia.
I heard about that.
How do you feel about that?
Don't put anything past Kevin because he's a great athlete, great competitor. And I remember back in the day when I was competing with him, his MO would be to take a break and you wouldn't hear much. And then all of a sudden he would come back on the scene and getting ready, and his body responds tremendously. So it'll be very cool to see what kind of condition he gets into and how he does. Yeah, and I'm rooting for him.
Do you think he can be in a top five?
It'll be interesting to see. I hope he does because I like Kevin, and I think he's got a great physique. The laws of nature, well, we'll see whether those prevail or not because he's almost 50 years old. So it is tougher. A 50-year-old body is not a 25-year-old body.
Do you think that's going to start a trend of retired bodybuilders coming out of retirement and trying to compete again?
I think the bug hits us from time to time. I'd be lying to you if I told you that it hasn't crossed my mind. At times, but at 56, I know that the best use of my time now is to help the guys that are coming up, like my son and Sergio and other athletes out there. Those are the kind of things that I like to do now, just dedicate myself to helping the guys.
So Oliva, Sergio told me that, he never had that relationship with his father. They had a very kind of turbulent relationship. So he said that he's always great to see, your chemistry with your son.
Yeah, it's been a really, really rewarding experience. Actually, Hunter and I were part of a photo shoot that we did with Sergio Jr. A couple years ago in California for Flex magazine. That was like a next generation type of photo shoot. So they're both of Cuban descent. Both descended from bodybuilding champions, and it was a great time. And so the answer is yes. It's really nice to see these guys, carrying the torch forward. As us older guys retire, watching them carry the torch forward. Incidentally, Vlad, my boy is going to have his first bodybuilding competition in July at the Branch Warren Classic here in Houston, Texas. The really interesting thing about that is that Branch Warren himself got his start at my bodybuilding show, my NPC bodybuilding show, 25 years ago here in Houston, and now my son is getting his start at the Branch Warren show.
Do you think Hunter will become professional get his pro card?
That's a great question. Only time will tell. I think he's got great genetics. I think he's got great muscle mass, great symmetry. I haven't seen him dieted down yet, so I don't know how muscular and how defined he's going to be, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Absolutely. How do you think the sport progressed from the time where you were competing, to where it is right now?
I think the sport is more exciting because it's more inclusive. With the introduction of the different categories, the physique, and now the classic bodybuilding categories, I think that it's going to open up the sport to even more people, and I think that's a very exciting thing. In terms of what's happened in professional bodybuilding, you know as well as I do that the direction that it's gone in is one that places the most emphasis on massive muscle. And, with that, I think that we've lost some things. I think that we've lost sight of other qualities in the physique. In fact, I was commenting to someone the other day, that the average waistline of a professional bodybuilder nowadays is probably 36 inches, where back in my day, in the late 80s, it's 30 inches. And I think that the reason for this is that they're having to work out with such massive weights, in order to develop those legs and the back and whatnot, that it also thickens their torso. All of the muscles of the torso also thicken, because they're load bearing muscles or support muscles and that kind of thing. I don't know that that's a positive trend. I don't particularly care creatively for that style of physique. And I'm hopeful that it'll take a direction, towards a more symmetrical physique now. We're seeing more symmetrical physiques now, like with Cedric McMillan, for instance, and whatnot.
Do you think the general audience, they want to see more of a mass?
Mass is still very popular, and I've always made the joke that people go to see the Mr. Olympia like they go to the zoo. They go to the zoo to see elephants and tigers. They don't go to the zoo to see cats and dogs. So yeah, people love to see the extremes that a human body can be taken to. Everybody loves to see a man break a world record running 100 meters. Everyone likes to see what the extremes are that a human body can be pushed to in any sport. So I respect that. But I will tell you that from a classical bodybuilding perspective and one of aesthetics and beauty, there's a point of no return, and I think we've crossed that. So really we have to decide, subjectively, what is it that that bodybuilding is? How do you define that?
My advice to Kevin in October of 2015, when he first was entertaining it, it was coming to me with a lot of frustration in his voice about the unsatisfactory state of the efforts being put forth by the bodybuilders. And he's looking at it with a lot of disdain. I mean, the athletes are just, the quality is just not good.